We've just seen the Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu call it a bad deal. Are you confident that you can convince him to respect it and that Israel will not take unilateral military action against the Iranian nuclear program?
Well, actually, Israel and the United States absolutely share the same goal here. There is no daylight between us with respect to what we want to achieve at this point. We both want to make it certain Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and Iran cannot be in a place where they could break out and suddenly get that nuclear weapon.
But the Prime Minister says this deal won't do that.
That's not accurate. The deal is the beginning and first step. It leads us into the negotiation so that we guarantee that while we are negotiating for the dismantling, while we are negotiating for the tougher provisions, they will not grow the program and their capacity to threaten Israel. Israel will actually gain a larger breathing space in terms of the breakout capacity of Iran. It's just clear.
The U.S. has pledged in this deal to hold off on new sanctions for 6 more months. The president said now is not the time for new sanctions. Are you confident you can convince Congress not to pass new sanctions? And if they do, will the president veto them?
Well, George, I believe Congress will recognize that this deal actually has a great deal of benefit in it. And I look forward to going up and working with our colleagues on the Hill in order to try to persuade them that this is not the moment to increase sanctions. I'm confident that as Congress examines what we've been able to achieve here, and as they measure the fact that if you didn't do what we're doing, they would be marching forward and putting more centrifuges in, enriching more, moving closer to a weapon. What we have done absolutely unequivocally allows us to get into Fort Al, know what they're doing in that enrichment, stop the enrichment, and if they're not prepared to do the things necessary to be able to have a peaceful program, truly peaceful and provable as such, then the sanctions can be turned back up. And, of course, he always has every other option available to him as commander-in-chief.
Finally, Mr. Secretary, you just emerged from the first face-to-face negotiations with the Iranians since 1979. Is the U.S. now heading towards a normal relationship with Iran? And how do you reconcile your experience with the words of their supreme leader, who calls Israel a rabid dog and accuses the United States of war crimes?
Well, obviously, those are the most insulting and unacceptable terms, obviously. I mean, that goes without stating. And we don't accept that kind of terminology, and we hope that that's not going to be part of the future. But we're not going to sit around and deal with hopes or words and pretend that there's trust where it has to be built over a long period of time. So we have no illusions. This is not going to change in one fell swoop and overnight. We have a long building process to engage in here. We need to put to test Iran's words and intentions without any cobwebs, without any, false assumptions, without any illusions. This is a hard road. And we will stand by Israel 100%, and I believe we will show that this particular approach has the ability to be able to garner greater, broader international support for whether or not Iran is, in fact, following through on its commitments or not. If you ultimately have to hold them accountable because they're not doing it, you have to be able to show that you've gone through all of the diplomatic avenues available before considering other alternatives.
Mr. Secretary, I know you've been going around the clock. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us.